Hello, I'm Jack Koenig with Graco Industrial Lubrication Equipment. Today I'm going to demonstrate for you the instructions for installing a field detachable hose and fitting. To find these instructions, visit www.graco.com and look for the search box in the upper right corner of the screen. This manual number is 3A as in apple 3159. Type that into the box and press the search button. It comes up as the first result. Click on it and you can open the PDF or download it to your computer. Before we begin, make sure you are wearing your safety glasses and any other personal protective equipment required by the location. We will also need to know the total length of the hose that you're going to make. So find out the length required by your application and let's get started. When assembling the hose assembly required by your application, the length that you need to measure is going to be affected by the fitting. To find the correct fitting part number, you can look at the front page of the manual or in the ILE Buyer's Guide. In the ILE Buyer's Guide, the hoses and the fittings that go with them will be grouped together. When you measure the length, you need to pay attention to where these notches on the fittings are. These are the JIC hose ends, and each of these are about 1 1/4 of an inch from the notch to the threaded end. The notch shows where the actual hose is going to end inside the fitting. So when you're looking at your length, you're going to have one of these on each end, 1 1/4 inch added to each end, that's 2.5 inches. So your total length needs to be 2.5 inches less than what your actual hose needs to be. So measure the raw hose 2.5 inches short and then cut that to length. The next step is to inspect the fitting. Inspect the through holes, the threads, and the hex for damage. Then make sure the swivel nut is able to turn freely. Trim the end of the hose to ensure it is clean and straight. Measure from the trimmed end of the hose to the length specified in the table found in the manual. Mark that distance on the hose. Today we're doing 1/8 inch hose first, so the measurement will be 1/2 inch. Alternatively, look at the notches on the fitting. The notches can be seen here on the hex, and that can be used for the measurement as well. Lubricate inside and outside of the hose end using SAE20 lubricating oil. Secure the hose in the correct size hole in a vise block to protect the hose when in the vise. Be sure there is a sufficient length of hose extending out of the block to install the ferrule. Note, vise block 127145 for 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch ID hoses is available from Graco. Contact your Graco distributor for additional information about this part. Notice, forcing the hose into the wrong sized hole or over tightening the vise when clamping the hose can damage the hose. Take care not to crush the hose. Secure the vise block in a vise. The hose end should face upward as so. Put the ferrule on the hose and hand turn it counterclockwise until tightened. That's right, this is a reverse thread, so it has to go counterclockwise. Turn the ferrule slowly counterclockwise with a tool until the bottom edge of the ferrule is aligned with the mark made on the hose. Note, the ferrule should be firm while tightening, but not difficult to turn. If the ferrule is difficult to turn, reapply SAE20 oil as necessary. Remove the hose and the vise block from the vise. Secure hex portion of ferrule in vise, making sure enough of the ferrule extends beyond the vise to allow for installation of the swivel fitting. Tighten vise just enough to secure the ferrule in the vise. Do not over-tighten the vise around the ferrule nut. Apply SAE 20 oil to the ferrule threads and inside of the hose to prevent damaging the hose core when force is applied during installation. Install the swivel fitting. Use a wrench to turn the swivel fitting clockwise until the bottom of the swivel is touching the top surface of the ferrule. Take care to ensure the hose does not rotate in the ferrule when installing the swivel fitting. Do not over-tighten the fittings during final assembly. After the two fittings are securely connected, stop tightening the fittings. Over-tightening can damage the fittings and a new hose assembly will need to be made. As the fitting is tightening, there will be a point where it no longer wants to turn. On the 1/4 inch fittings, that's pretty obvious, but on the 1/8 inch, it's easy to miss if you try to force it on too hard. I recommend that people actually break one just to feel what it feels like, but there on my 1/8 inch, I could feel it stop resisting, and you can visually inspect it here by noting that there's no gap in between the two pieces of the fitting. Just to demonstrate the point, let's see how easy it is to break the end off of this hose. See, that didn't take much effort at all. If this was a real hose, now it's ruined because this piece can't just be spun off. It has to be cut off of the end of this, and now a new fitting has to be installed basically on a new piece of hose. So if you've already cut your hose to length, now you'll need to cut a new one. When you're tightening the fittings, especially on the 1/8 inch hose, make sure you feel for that increased resistance and then stop tightening. Otherwise, as you see here, the whole hose could be ruined and you'll have to start over. Measure the final assembled hose length to verify that it is the desired length. Skin injection hazard. Warning: a hose that has been crushed or damaged in the vise may leak. High pressure fluid leaks will pierce skin. This may look like just a cut, but it is a serious injury that can result in amputation. Get immediate surgical treatment. To reduce the risk of skin injection when testing or using the hose assembly, inspect each hose assembly for cuts or damage. Verify that the hose assembly has not been crushed or damaged in the vise. Do not use a damaged hose assembly. Pressure test the assembly and check for leaks.